Good evening and welcome to the Blue Room. My name's Bea Colley and I'm a literature programmer here at South Bank Centre. We're delighted that you've joined us for London Literature Festival, which still has one bustling weekend of activity to go, with talks from Latin American writers, a day celebrating young adult fiction, and a talk with writer Mohsin Hamid and actor Riz Ahmed. We're really pleased to have Somali Week back with us for a second year, and we want to say a huge thank you to the founder of CADE Somali Arts and Culture, Ayan Mahmood, MBE, who has led the festival since its conception, a new festival director, Hannah Ali, author and PhD candidate at SOAS, University of London. You're in for a really fantastic night of readings and discussion, and we hope to partner with Somali Week for many years to come. So I'm going to hand over in a moment to Mina Schutz, who's going to be chairing the evening and taking us through the action tonight. So please welcome Mina Schutz. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you for all the non-Muslims here. I think we're in for a great night tonight. I'm very much excited. The night will pretty much go as this. We're going to have some of our great poets perform some of their pieces. We're going to take a 10-minute break and then we're going to dive into discussions and Q&As. So I hope you guys brought some questions tonight. First off, we're going to start with our first poet of the night. Yasmin is a 23-year-old poet from West London and a psychology graduate. Yasmin has been writing for as long as she can remember, but has only recently started to perform her works. You can find her on her social medias, her Twitters, which is Yasmin IRL. So I'd like you all to bring Yasmin up onto the stage and please welcome her.
Assalamu alaikum. This first poem I wrote is to answer the question, why do you write poetry? So, I write for the 12-year-old me I spend every day trying to reconnect to. Because although I know universe is more now, she could tell each cloud apart. She could give one look at a plant and give a 5,000-word summary. The clarity of youth slips away when busy adulthood takes over. I speak really fast. It's a habit from being the youngest, a habit of having a home with my mother and a home with my siblings and a home of my own when everyone was busy. And it's a habit of spitting it all out so I'm no longer in the way. And writing is taking time to have the words and then keep them. The thoughts stop when no one's there to listen, and sometimes I stopped listening, and I write to reach back inside and find clarity to stay forever living and not just alive. Tribute to the white land that we are in right now, the unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates. I write to remind myself the Quran is not just a book about people who lived all those years ago, it's a lesson for every image that my eyes take in, chosen purposefully for these eyes and this soul to understand something. Am I watching the images or am I numb as they flicker in my sight? Am I wasting my time? Sometimes. Sometimes we do. Days of naps and Netflix and nonchalant conversations where we are careless with our existence, watching days turn to weeks, turn to months of numb, distracting ourselves from the fact we purposefully distract ourselves to get away from the fact we forgot what it was like to look at one thing or one person and have clear ideas about just that, to be in this exact moment, instead of constantly connected to 10 other moments. When did we become a static image glitching in real time? Let's not forget our souls are not from here. They've been ripped from their home, put soundly in these bodies that age each year, purposefully, intentionally, and that unfolding beauty is a film only we can watch happen. You pulled yourself through hard days and woke up in the morning to wash your face. No one else did that for you. No one in life will see you as you see you, and that's okay. And that's all the personal space that you will ever need. So be a lotus flower sitting on a lake within the world but untouched by the world. So be energy that you filter 5 times a day so you can share the compassion your heart overproduces. So you can be something beautiful for this world. So you can be something beautiful for your soul's future. So you can let that beauty guide you home. This next one's a little bit short. I titled it Europe. Let's get English language class serious right now because the word fun has always pissed me off. Fun is a night out. Fun is being around people. Fun is loud. Fun is nocturnal. And have you noticed that fun just so happens to be all the things that are bad for you? Eating green seedless grapes in my clean bedroom with my window open enough for the sun rays to hug my cheeks brings me so much joy. Yet if I say I ate grapes in my room, you wouldn't define it as fun. I can't define that as a fun weekend. Oh, what did you do? Oh, I sat by my window and ate grapes. And yet all those things come to mind when the word fun usually leave you sad, lonely, discontent. The word fun is a wolf in sheep's clothing. The chocolate biscuit tin with nothing but sewing needles inside, it's a lie. It has stolen all color out of the face of the word joy and painted it on itself. We're not having it anymore. Joy is a word too. So define what brings you joy and live your definition of fun, or you'll spend lifetimes chasing a horizon only to find that the sun has set when you arrive. And this last piece hasn't got a title, but it's very similar to the first piece that I just read. Okay. Nobody told me growing up that the clouds from The Simpsons should have reminded me of the actual sky instead of the actual sky reminding me of the clouds from The Simpsons. We watch everything through a lens. Eventually we become mere characters, thinking that we cannot change, thinking that we are set in stone. We are never set in stone. We are forever moist cement, making our shape before it dries, an idea you accidentally picked up in one area of life, changing your life in another, and may it only dry once we've finished making a shape God is happy with. When I was younger, my eyes were wider than they are now, and everything was a question and a search, and now my eyes are narrow, as I filter the visual pollution, hoping not to have my soul tainted. When they do not understand me, I grow silent. When they misunderstand me, I walk away. I didn't spend years cleaning my energy till it was transparent for you to treat me as a wooden door, unable to see through and creaking. I'm a quiet stream, don't mistake me for something that I am not. I've been so tired of meeting people who dislike both trees and wonder, and when I say I feel like a feather falling from a tree and all they ever see is a leaf, I hope you understand that I am just as anyone else, living and breathing, and that is the wonder. And that is the feather from the tree. There is unique beauty in you and in me, and I'm tired of being felt as inanimate, objectified. 2D emotions don't work on 4D characters. I hope you find your definition of happy, and I hope the heavens smile down on you in the process, because this life is actually not a film. Art imitates life, and we need to only focus on art when we know the life it has come from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yasmin. I really liked that last piece. So thank you. Next up, we have another special poet, Hema. Hema Ilmi, also known as Susu Creates, is a writer and spoken word poet. She is an English literature graduate who uses writing to explore themes such as identity and mental health. She is also a published poet in an anthology called Black Water, which came out earlier this year. So please, let's welcome Hema.
Hello. Sorry. So the first piece I'm going to perform is kind of dedicated to my mum and my grandma. Really and truly, it was inspired by just Somali women, if I'm being honest. So it's called The Woman in You. She holds the world in her hands and is told she could never. She raises you high, but she was told she could never. She didn't call you princess and you wondered why, but when she held you high, you saw why. You see, she didn't want you to wait in the ivory tower. She didn't want you to wait for a man to stand behind. She wanted you to be the great woman that stood high and not the great woman that stood by. You'll have those who'll say you'll never, but just like your mother and her mother, you'll fly higher than they'll ever. You are the crisp shine in a laughing child's eye, and God knows that under every woman's feet lies paradise. That a woman blooms like a flower. Sorry, no, let me refrain from calling you that, as you are anything but a flower. You are a rock, a strong boulder that does not budge the currents in the water. You are the commanders, the educators. You are a woman. Thank you. So I've been writing for a while, and I like to experiment a lot with colors because I think the world is colorful. So, so this one's called Red Pages. I leak onto these pages before me and let the words flow from my lips. I speak about the pain that crushes my soul and the love I long to hold. But those pages are blue, and sometimes yellow, but these pages before me are red. Red and hints of orange and splatters of black, but never yellow. I sit as I leak onto these pages. These colors are so foreign to me. The colors don't blend seamlessly. It's messy and cluttered and too much in one like me. More identities plagued with uncertainties. My brain is one and my heart the other. My face is one and my hair is the other. The shackles they put on me, they force their ideas of me onto me, and I sit quietly. I break out of those bonds and find myself in new ones, and the cycle repeats. Hoya's eyes are like globes of memories. Her eyes are yellow and orange, while mine are vacant homes. For who they ask, but I stay cold, for I don't know. I keep them free, for they aren't mine to keep. Aba's eyes are just like hers, but the colors are blue and yellow. I see him stand and it screams I am me, while I stay mad at these pages reflecting these hues of red, so bright it's blurring, it's the mess. My eyes are stressed. My fingers are red, my hair is red, my brain is red. I am red, so let me be red. Thank you. So the last one I'll perform is called Hollow. Yeah, you'll kind of know what it's about. You hear my presence before my presence presents itself. The click-clacking of my bones proclaim the foreign being that's about to enter. My body screams I was not made here, while you look upon my face and see a continent. In London, my bones announce itself, and my blood rejects itself. But somehow my fingers shudder and freeze as I think of leaving London. The word home is hollow, but is it possible to crave you while loving him? London, the grey, harsh city that pulled me apart and pulled me back together. It's become an addiction to me. The cold, the grey, and the honest sun that washes her bleak rays over me. We have no beautiful ocean or fruits that would render you speechless, but it's London. The vibrant grey London. I stopped to breathe in the air in the solitude of green, surrounded by buildings that tower over the 5'0" me, holding me close like Hoya did when I was young, brushing my hair back while whispering supplications of peace. You run through me, that's true, but so do they. Somalia in my blood and in my face, while London infiltrates my pores and my veins. Can I call you both my home? One I have yet to embrace and feast my eyes upon, while the other stole a part of me in the night. Maybe home isn't quite as hollow, and maybe it's just a little full. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Hema. I really liked her first piece, especially because it was dedicated to Somali women, and I think this panel tonight is a great testament to Somali women in the UK. Next up, we have Deqa. Deqa Abdi is a writer, a poet, and a mental health advocate. She is also a mother of two and graduated from Goldsmiths University with a degree in education, culture, and society. So please welcome.
I think this is the perfect size. Assalamu alaikum and hi to everybody. I'll just begin. Dreaming of home. The sun would kiss my skin each day. I would run and not look back. Recline upon a sturdy branch. Fear not the fall, I won't pass the ground. Bushy lambs would lick my face. Sis and I would weave some tales, a little like the beads about our necks. All the shapes and colors of our hearts about a man who rolled up streets, then put them into his shirt pockets. Just in case he got lost again. He shall retrieve the roll, thus make a path. Some of our trees bled ruby flow. Who wants nail polish? Us girls would cry. Even if mom's not a fan, our nails were cute. The dewy sand at night, a gentle hug under the milky moon, we created art. Each morn tummies filled. How do you not know the taste of camel milk? Laughing at my sister's moustache, all soapy froth, then one day my home was nothing but a picture. A picture never to leave my breast, to stir me at the oddest times with yearning, longing for who I was. Will I find her if I go there again? Will she still be me? Will I want to be there too? My toes no longer mingle with earth, a small pleasure they'll have to relearn. My eyes see brick each way I turn. I no longer run like I have no care. My soul yearns for the color green, the qura' tree, whose shade was inclusion. Instead, I have to queue. I have to sit inside a bus, I have to read and I have to write. I have to play with people that I don't know. They tell me who I should be. It's not flattering, like father's words. They have me say words that I don't know. They snigger and laugh in my face. I sit alone. I want to go home. I want to run and not look back. I want to go back, but I have to stay. I have to go to class each day. I have to eat food I don't like, and when I take buddies to school, I have to explain. I even have to say why I look this way. What's on your head, they want to know. Some days I go to the loo, then sit to let time pass because I have control. Even going home is not going home. Brick walls again. Soon I learn to cope with the loss of me. Books take me in, nestle me within their pages. No more pavement and hard walls. I can see a view like I used to do. I fill my rucksack until I can barely walk. I lose myself to find myself page after page. This way, I may reconcile the human I was, the human I am, and the human I'm meant to be. Thank you. This poem is called Shards, and I think, hopefully, you'll know why. Something is broken between us. Like shards of glass, it cuts the oxygen when we're together. When we speak, our voices scratch and slice our throats on their way to our mouths. Emotions unexpressed sit in our bellies, undealt with, a bundle of thorns strung together. Our tears remain like sharpened icicles, cutting the backs of our eyes, afraid of not knowing how to melt and flow. Something is broken and we don't know how to fix it, and we don't know what it is. We wear invisible black in mourning, unable to grieve together, we avoid eye contact. Our faces mirroring the walls made for masking the pain, we are muted, merely existing in the same space, a cracked, weathered, heart-wrenching togetherness. Thank you. Okay, this one, well, it's just 4 poems. This is the third one. It's called Less. They tell her to speak less, be seen less, do less, confront less, hush, feel less, cry less, laugh less, eat less, time, take less, space, occupy less. Be less, more, do more, cook more, clean more, iron his clothes more, feed more, take care of the kids more, serve more, love more, carry everyone's burdens more. Money, why can't you earn more? How? How can she give when she is empty? When her growth is being stilted, how can she love more when she has not experienced it? How can she carry everyone's burdens when her own lies upon her shoulders so heftily? How can she thrive when she has to fight just to be? Thank you. This one is about my wonderful, wonderful daddy, my wonderful dad, and it's good to end on a really positive note. So, Abba's daughter. I feel at home in spaces where I am my father's daughter. The times when within me I close all doors of self-doubt and allow myself to be my father's little girl. My father's little girl who is free, my father's daughter who was born happily, chatting away, telling stories, my father's daughter who is ever affectionate and not afraid to show it. My father's little girl whose wit and sense of humor father always laughs just the way only he can, his shoulders rising and falling and rising and falling with rhythm that comes from deep within the soul. My father's daughter who believes in herself, untainted by the opinions that others may have made of her, untainted by society's stereotypes of who she should be. I am most at home when I go home, back to the little girl, so like her father. My father's daughter who means the world and more to her Abbe. Here, I'm at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Daqa. Our next poet is actually the youngest of the bunch. Aisha Nouri is a 18-year-old college student who hopes to study neuroscience at university. Aisha has been publishing her poetry online since the age of 15 at queenarawelo.wordpress.com, so everybody make sure you go check her out afterwards, and has only recently started performing her poetry publicly. So please, can we welcome Aisha to the stage?
Assalamu alaikum. So my first poem is a poem that I wrote at the age of 15 after my recent trip from British-Somali, and it's titled My People. I heard the mu'addin from a distance, being drowned by a loud scream. A scream I was so unfamiliar with, it piercing my soul till it bled rivers of grief. The smoke gushing out of the city, once known as a white pearl of the Indian Ocean, with its death toll so high, and my mind filled with this one question: how many more years do a group of people have to suffer before the world eventually notices their pain? More than 1 million dead, yet still nobody knows our name. Each day and another beautiful Somalis put in their grave. There is not enough time for us to mourn. Explosions have become a norm. The children can't find happiness, and the whole country is in distress. Many of our leaders are corrupt, and clans have left us in a mess. For 25 plus years, little has changed. My people are still being murdered. My people are still starving. My people are still dying. My people have nowhere to go. Why has the world been so cruel? The cold shoulders that have been turned are freezing now. The wounds keep on bleeding. The eyes never stop flowing. The pain won't stop hurting. The country keeps on falling. Wadani, the future will be good to you. The deaths will indeed stop. The torture will be put on hold. Our country will rise. Our people will live. Our children will smile. The pain will ease. The pain will cease. We won't be killed at home, nor will we drown in oceans. We won't be cut up for our organs. There will be a time that we'll live like kings and queens, like how our ancestors used to be. We will help those who once ignored us. We won't ever be as mean. We will teach people how to live. We will never take anything for granted, as we now know how cruel this world can be. We will fly a blue flag and wave it around. The day will soon come and we'll prostrate to Ar-Rahman, give the whole world our salam, and we'll thank Allah that our country has finally seen peace and took a stand. Somali Hana'atu Ameen. Okay, so my next poem is titled Motivation. My name, your name, our name, his name. We all have names, but only some will their legacies live on. Through the midst of clouds and dust, the pain and suffocating days, the knowledge we consume, the days we waste, the books we read, the places we stay, make up our lives and build our names. See, the ocean is extremely alluring. The beautiful water merges with the blue sky, which suddenly turns grey, which mirrors our lives. We all have ups and downs, the hardships we face and the pain we endure inside. Just like everything in this world, we will face difficulties. Our lives are like waves, which will first crash but then rise, high and wide, so don't lose hope. The The world will ruin you inside, but it will make you a stronger person on the outside. All of us want easy lives, but that comes with hard work and patience, suffering and endurance. We can't escape from our fate. Serendipity never occurs, so please don't wait on it to change your lives, rather expect hardships to mold you, to break you, then make you, to construct you into a God-fearing, loving person who will reshape our world, build magnificent buildings and help everyone grow. We're all enigmatic in our own way, and that's what makes us stand out. And don't ever try to change to please another. Many of us have lost ourselves in a society full of subservient and passive people. Don't forget those nights your tears soaked your sheets, and the days you would weep, thinking you've had enough. For those nights and days were the ones which woke you and shook you back up, made you humble, softened your heart and made you start. Wisdom is the key to success. أقول لآن وإفتن لآن. The literal translation of that is to be without knowledge is to be without light. So shine. Let your light blind those who doubted you and told you couldn't do this and that. Wisdom is not pi r squared or animal cells. Rather, it's patience and understanding. To talk only when you need to and to never judge or hold a stupid grudge. So soar to the clouds. Defy those who mocked you and never look down. It's your life and your choices. So if you drown, it's up to you if you fall and never get back up, or if you stand tall, with your head held high whilst looking down modestly. Thank you. Okay, so my last poem is titled What About Those? And it's just about like how we live in first world countries and we tend to ignore the plight of those in like third world countries. Okay. Those lives who merely became numbers, whose stories were reduced to nothing, whose bodies were found deep under the rubble, those lives who so quickly were forgotten, those tears that never were saved, those hearts who kept on breaking, as each new day another loved one was taken away, another child buried, another stomach not filled. When will we, as people, realize there's life beyond the borders, that when we're laughing, they're screaming, pleading for someone, anyone, to try to intervene and save them? But we continue to turn a blind eye, whilst they continue to suffer, quietly but so loudly. But our ears could hear nothing, our hearts refuse to move. We constantly talk about rights, but what right has ever been given to the Gambian child that was never fed quite right? Or the Somali mother who the pain of war took over her entire life? Our posters are selective. Some lives are humans and others just mere numbers, and we've all lost the ability to care. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asha. And the last poet of the night who's going to perform a few pieces for us is Fatima. Fatima is a history and politics undergraduate at SWF, and she's a community engagement officer. And she's been heavily involved in student politics nationally. Alongside this, she spends her time performing poetry. Fatima was also previously featured in BuzzFeed and Vogue, so please let's welcome Fatima to the stage.
Let me just fix this mic, and whilst I'm doing that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. May peace and blessings be upon you all, and good evening. I hope everyone's been enjoying the poetry so far. I have. I've been really moved, and I look forward to seeing more of your work in the future. So tonight I will be rounding this off, which will be very difficult, in all honesty. Thanks. I should have probably went first, thinking about it now. So I'm just going to do a few poems, and hopefully you'll enjoy them. So my first one is going to be about poetry, and the way I try to define my own poetry, which hopefully you'll enjoy. So, oh, actually it's too high. Let me just do this a bit better. Your smile lights up my sun. Even the moon can't block your shine. As the dark clouds turn grey, the ink fades into blank pages, so much that it leaks secrets into the earth's core. Every laughter provides rain on malnourished seeds, and don't even get me started on the rainbows that come out from your mouth. You're the only thing that matters right now. Forget everything you knew about love, let's redefine it. Let's change history. This is how poetry began to osmosis emotions onto paper. You were much more than a hobby. Rather, you are the shield that guards me from my failure. So Make sure you grip onto your heart with dear life, and no matter how hard the going gets, don't you dare leave traces of home. That's that one. And the second one. Give me 1 second. This one is about, it's a poem to my friend, and I wrote it after she was like struggling with her mental health. And I'm like that cute friend that will just send you paragraphs about how much I love you. Yeah, that's me. So I decided to write her a poem. So I thought I'd share that with you, just in case someone needs it. Why not? As I dry those sharp weapons of mass destruction off your fragile cheeks, I wonder why you let it win. Control every inch of you, suffocate any possibility of happiness, and barricade you shut in a metal cage. Don't you understand that you light up entire galaxies? Erase the vicious voice from crawling underneath your skin. Droplets of missiles floating across your bloodstream, sucking any sign of soul available. Don't get me wrong, it's not too late to catch it. Save yourself, break free from the commands of society, let your heart guide you, and start accepting the woman across that cracked mirror. Accept your flaws and fill cement between those walls. Every stretch mark tells a new story. Every line guards the coastline from any sign of life. What I'm trying to say is, I just want you to be happy, to smile at the birds singing, to appreciate the essence of yourself. Remember, beauty is found under hidden rocks. Pal, with a little searching, you appear shining brighter than ever. Diamond, show yourself what a treasure you are. So my third poem is going to be about my brother. I think especially when men are growing up in this current society anyway, they tend to deal with a lot of the commands that patriarchy tends to put on them, and the idea of what it means to be a man, and what role that plays on them, and they don't understand how vicious patriarchy can be and how it manifests in their lives. So that's what this poem is about. I can't seem to find the brother I once knew. He roamed these streets 6 years before I had the pleasure to meet him. Built a metal cage, allergic to emotions, he experienced raindrops transitioning into puddles. He was the main character in a movie showered with film extras, allowing himself to evaporate into thin air, not giving himself a chance to breathe. Life should not always be grey skies, his hands like slippery ice. I can't seem to find the brother I once knew. Like time, the shorthand holds on to him more than I ever could. Asking for help wasn't his strong suit. Slip and slide your struggles into a leather brown suitcase. I wonder how long it will take for gravity to take its toll, when his limbs stop responding to the injustices placed upon them. Accept my olive branch, maintain its roots firmly on the ground, and water it daily. Yeah. And I think it would be a lie for me to say that my mum doesn't always come up with my poems. And the thing is, I always just talk about it with her, and she was like, "Really? Oh my God, I love you. You're so basic. Oh, me, really me?" And I was like, "Yeah." I don't know how she does it. It's a skill that she has. The same way she can find things that I've always lost, but she has this magical memory where she knows where it is already. It's amazing. It's amazing. I think I can inherit it when I give birth, but don't know if it works like that. We'll find out. So here it goes. You blessed me before I even knew your name, giving me the best example from a woman, and for that I thank you. I used to run around reckless, lacking any sense of direction. No matter how many turns you take, you protect me. Some days I lay awake wondering, some things can only be healed by a mother's touch. She has the ability to carry the world on her back and only share her worries with the oft forgiving. She taught me that some days it might seem like the world is crashing down, and that's okay. It will all be okay, she said, live through it. Never hold on to anything for too long. Every moment has to end. Place your trust in the Creator and love the woman that you are right now. The future you will thank you for it later. Show your gratitude by thanking him during the third of the night, whilst in prostration cried to him. He knows your condition better than you know yourself. Ar-Raqib, the ever-watchful guardian, guide my soul when I least deserve it. Guide my wandering soul when I'm filled by this world, and guide me when I least deserve it. Thank you. I have one more, and this is just because similar reasons why you wrote a poem for Somali women. I just think they're so inspirational. You know, they just give you so much love and affection, and they have the ability to like withstand anything. Yeah, I think that within itself is actually really magical. Yeah, I don't know how it's possible, but it's great. It's great. Yeah. When life carries you on your back, strap on tight. Regain composure and enjoy the ride. When chapters in your life decide to rewrite themselves, allow each page to come alive and ingrain them into your soul until the end of time. During the night, I pray you find happiness in the shadow of your smile. Never rely on any soul other than your own to make you feel whole. Bear strength on your spine like your mother taught you. Love doesn't linger within the acceptance of any man, nor his approval of your self-worth. Only give that type of power to your heart, your brain, and the one who gave you soul. Shaped every inch of you, compiled your genetics, and planned your future before you were even able to smile. So never forget to smile. When you were blessed with a sister who dusts you off and empowers every inch of you, hold on to her close and never let go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fatima. I'm going to open a question, I guess, to all the poets here. And I want to know, how did you guys get into poetry? Because I feel like, as you guys know, Somalis are always referred to as the nation of poets. And I just want to know how you guys got into poetry, given the fact that we're here, we're in the UK, and we're not really in Somalia, clearly. So yeah, whoever wants to start, go ahead.
Okay, realize on the end. So I think there was a challenge for me to even think I was able to be a poet, mainly because when we think of poetry, when we're introduced to it through schools, they're very disconnected to us. They tend to be like old white people. People of color aren't really represented in those spaces. So the idea that I could possibly say something very useful just wasn't something that popped into my head. And then I had the luxury of being able to go to a poetry workshop, which was free, especially because most of the workshops tend to be very expensive. It's really inaccessible, with Mohammed at Elise Network. And that was a great way for me to be able to be involved with people that look like me, and it made me feel like I have the capacity to be able to be in these spaces, and like reading like writers of color, and that allowed me to become more inspired, and like reading Audre Lorde's poetry, and it allowed me to start realizing that I can be in those spaces, and that's when I started doing like open mics and realizing that it's possible to enter these spaces, basically. That was me.
Yeah, so I've been writing for a long time. I would say since I was about 15, maybe 12 even. I didn't really realize I was writing poetry, if that makes sense. I agree with what you were saying. Like in high school, we kind of just learned about, like it was a lot of the anthologies that we read through were like war poems and stuff like that, which obviously I couldn't connect to. So obviously I just felt like I couldn't call myself a poet. I kind of have the imposter syndrome, so I constantly think I'm not a poet. So I think I only started performing actually at open mics this year in January at a poetry and Shah event. So that was kind of cool. And that is when I saw other people performing poetry, and I was like, wow, I can do this. Like it's scary, but I can do this. So I guess that's how I got into poetry, I think, yeah.
I'll talk about mine. Basically, I've also written for a very long time. I kind of learned basically how to write at about the age of 11 when I came to this country. And as soon as I actually learned how to write, I started. My mum bought me a little like exercise book, and I would like write about my day and stuff like that. And I would always just naturally just write, basically, that read or write, or because I felt like there wasn't really a lot of space for people like immigrants, people that were new to the country, and there wasn't really a lot to do other than to go see family. So it would just be like TV and reading and like have my little exercise book and just write and colouring and stuff. And it just kind of went on like that. And I kind of would like, get really encouraged by like my English teachers and stuff. And I don't know, I really always just was drawn to like language. I talk a lot. And so then I kind of like, with difficult times, I would always go to writing when it was, when I would go through challenges in life. And actually about a year ago, I kind of wrote something and I looked at it and I was like, oh, I think this is a poem. and it was basically, that's how it kind of started. And I just carried on from there. And it kind of like, it's a bit strange, but I feel like I just kind of like capture the words. Like, it doesn't involve a lot of thinking, unlike some of the other writing that I do. So yeah, that's how I got into my poetry.
I think my one was when I was in an English class. I was like 13 years old, and my teacher was like, write a poem, and then I read over and I was like, damn, I'm good. So then, and yeah, that's basically, and I like listening to like poets and stuff like Mustafa Ahmed and whatnot, and I'm just like inspired by them. So yeah.
I think that everybody has their own story of like why they get into their passions or what they love or what they like to do for a habit or hobby. I think for me it was just like to express myself, I guess. I like what you said, I didn't realize that it was poetry and I didn't connect to the idea of like other people who wrote poetry. I was just like, okay, I'm doing this. It makes me understand myself more. I like it. And then and I would watch people do spoken word online, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Like, people are actually doing this stuff, even in London. And then, yeah, I was like, okay.
Yeah, I kind of resonate with you guys. I'm into photography, but seeing as this is the confession stage, before I was into photography, I was into poetry when I was in high school, and there's two of my friends, they're here, and they could probably vouch for me on that. I was the worst poet ever. Before I called myself Minna Shoes, I called myself Lyrical Minna. I think I was more of a rapper. I wasn't a poet. I was more of a rapper, so if I carried that on, I probably would have been here today performing with them, but I'm not. I'm here hosting, sadly. So Hema, I have a question for you. I guess, how do you find your muse, your inspiration when you're writing? Because you said like you just write and then you just realize it's poetry. So how do you find your inspiration to write that?
That's a hard question. Okay, it's gonna be like a really like annoying answer, but I'm inspired by a lot of things. Like, one of my biggest inspirations is my mum, and that's just me being honest. It's not even me trying to be like scoring points for my mum. She is literally like the rock in my life, honestly. And a lot of the things I write, I don't even realize until afterwards. I'm like, rah, that's actually about my mom. And she doesn't know it, but yeah. Also leaves and trees. I don't know why, but like I'm obsessed with trees and how green they are and how they turn into like different colors and then how they're bare and how I just think it's really beautiful. So yeah. So nature, I guess. Yeah.
What about you, Yasmin? How do you find your inspiration?
I think that it's a bit mad that we exist and we're like, no, but for real though, like I get that we live in London and it's a Western world and we came from Somalia, all of this, but we're human beings on an earth and like that's crazy. And we don't really take time to take that in enough. I don't think people don't look at the sky enough. People don't look at the moon enough. People are always like, oh, I gotta go to work, gotta wake up, my alarm, my this, I gotta go to this person. But like when you really deep it, like we're alive and that's a blessing. And you know, that's what inspires me really.
She's not lying. I kind of agree with her on that one. What about you, Fatima? How do you find your inspiration?
I think young children are, the prime example of what I aspire to be. Let me explain before that sounds really creepy. it's the idea that they can see brand new things and they're amazed. They can see something flying and they're like, what the hell just happened? Like, how did that happen? And it's the idea that we've like normalized everything in the world. And I think we grow up getting taught these like values and morals and told that right and wrong exists and there's no element of grey anymore, that grey doesn't exist. We want quick answers, we want quick solutions for everything. And I think someone's phone's ringing by accident. I think that grey area is what I'm really trying to explore, right? Redefining what we want the world to like, what we define as norms, and allowing ourselves to dream without any borders or any like limitations, and redefining what we want the world to look like, what we want ourselves to look like, and that's a good way for us to be able to question. That's
true. And how about Daqa and Aisha? How do you guys find, I guess, your inspiration to write? You wrote a piece about Somalia, and you wrote a piece about your father. So how do you guys find the inspiration to write?
I think that growing up, I have we all, like, everybody has a multidimensional identity. And for me, it's something that I think about a lot. It's something that I question a lot. It's something that sometimes sits quite heavy on my chest. And therefore, I think it's a way for me to make sense of everything that's going on around me and my own thoughts and everything like that. And sort of coming from a sort of a really like loving, amazing, supportive network, but at the same time where I kind of notice myself that I am not necessarily, I kind of have big dreams and stuff, like I want to become stuff and do this and do that. And not that I'm not belittling what the people around me are doing. I mean, they're happy with their lives. They've got a vision for themselves. But I realize that my vision doesn't. There's areas that are conflicting where I am, and it's a way of sort of making sense of that. I just sort of take it day by day, and it's basically a way of making sense of it all for me personally.
I think my inspiration comes from, so if you read my blog, I'm someone who kind of feels the pain of others a lot. So it's usually about the suffering of, people in Somalia and, those in Yemen, etc. So I feel like they're kind of like my inspiration because I feel like I have to do something to kind of like raise awareness because it's just not fair. And that's basically it.
Quite a few of you kind of touched on the topic of your family, and I assume that they are people that play a big role in kind of your poetry, not just as inspiration, but kind of I'm not sure if any of you guys receive feedback from your family. My family is actually quite big in terms of playing a part in my creative career. My mum wanted to come today, but she got caught up at Duxi, so she won't be coming. But my family do play a big role in kind of why I create and why I continue to create. So how big of a role does your family play? And this is open to all of you guys. You don't have to answer. You can answer if you want. But how big of a role does your family play in your poetry and pursuing it altogether?
I think I would say that your family shapes who you are, really. Like, the entire core of your foundation of your personality is based on how you were raised. And to do something like poetry is a form of expression. Like, in my family anyway, to express yourself and to be loud and to not let anyone silence you was like a core belief of my mum. Like, she would give us that nobody can tell you to just be quiet. Like, if you want to say something, say it. And it's like to train you almost for the fact that in life, not everyone's going to take the time to listen to you or to help you follow your dream. Like, you got to just go and do it yourself. So I think that when it comes to the core values that she's given me, in that sense, she's really motivated me in poetry.
So, as I said earlier, I kind of just started doing spoken word. So actually so my parents didn't actually know I was doing poetry until I was performing at City Hall and they saw it on YouTube. And so I mean, like Yasmin said, like they've, without them, I wouldn't probably be writing as great as I am now. And some of the things I write is about them and how they've influenced me and the things that I do and things like that. But I mean, they're very supportive. It's just I was very scared of because a lot of my poetry is very, how do I say this? what's that word? No, like, yeah, like I'm very vulnerable on the page, which is weird. How can I do that, share it with strangers but not my family? But it's like at the same time, I'm scared that they might see something they don't want to see, if that makes sense. But when they saw it and everything, they was like, my mum was so proud. It's just like, how could you not tell me? And it was really nuts because I had my grandma sending it to me saying like, wow, this is so cool. What the hell, did you write this? I was like, yeah, oh my God. So, I mean, I kind of regret not sharing it sooner, but they do. Like when they hear it and they're like, oh, okay, like, had you just been a bit more confident, this would have been better. But like, yeah. So basically what Yasmin said.
Anyone else?
Yeah, for me, it's I don't expect everybody around me to sort of like see my vision, and that's not the case for me personally. But there's people that are really close to me that are incredibly supportive. Like I didn't even like give myself the permission in my own mind and heart to stand in front of people and share my work, and I felt like I wanted this. It just sort of felt right to do it, and I kind of just mentioned it to somebody in my family who's really close and really important to me, and they were like, why not? And I was like, oh, okay. And it was a really strange experience, and then it was almost like I didn't have to think about it then because I kind of was holding myself back. So I think it's really, really key. Yeah, it kind of inspires me in multitude of ways, if you know what I mean. Whether it's when I need to write about something really deep, and you go through challenges within your family and everything like that as well. So it inspires me in that sense, but also in the other sense of sort of like helping me to just, do my thing, I guess. Thank you.
I think I'm just going to add on to it's pretty similar themes to what everyone else has said. With my mum, she's always forced me to do, like, if I want to do anything, she'll wake up and be like, you're doing amazing. It's great. I love it. Because I remember once I've said to her, Mum, I'm going to wear, like, blue lipstick, neon blue. She was like, I love it. You could do it. You could do it. I could see the hesitation. But she's always, like, thrived off doing that. So I remember when I first invited her, like, to one of my first performances, she came. And like I said, yeah, so this poem is about my mum. And she already started crying. I was like, I haven't started. She was like, I could just feel it. And she was already finished. So like as a whole, she really inspires my work just because like she's so expressive. Like she's also just encourages everything I do. And I just really hope to be like her. So yeah.
I feel you.
She would love that too.
This is the last question, and then we're going to kind of open it up to the audience, and you guys can get involved with the discussion. Sorry about that. I guess we're all first-generation Somalis that live in the UK. A lot of our parents, I guess, fled the civil war and came here. And it's no secret that back in the days, Somali arts was popping. It was popping. You can find everything on YouTube nowadays if you guys want to watch it. Quite specifically, I guess it was quite a very poetic community, known for their plays, their comedy. Hibo Noura, who's one of our guests at Somali Week this year, she's been in quite a few Somali plays, and there's quite a lot of Somali singers, but it was predominantly written by men, poems written by men, songs written by men, and all of it was about love, which none of you guys spoke about today, so I'm impressed. I want to know thank you. I'm a part-time comedian as well. Thank you. What I want to know is, I guess, how you guys find that dual citizenship in terms of balancing being British and being Somali, and I guess you guys probably get it a lot. Why don't you guys perform in Somali? Is it because you're Hoya Matala gang or you're not Hoya Matala gang? I guess you guys can answer that for us. So feel free to take the mic.
Okay, it looks like I just threw myself into that one. I think there's a few interesting things about this, right? I think it's the idea of knowledge production, that there were Somali poets, right? And it's like, when you think of Somali poets, you think of like Nuruddin Farah, you think of like Hadrawi, but then we completely erase that, and it's like, why do we not think that was credible enough? And we like Gabe is like something like Somali, Barambo is something that Somali like parents used to do and like still do, and it's like, why don't we think that's as credible enough to archive? And I think that's why it's really important that now, like when we have like Somali artists are able to express themselves, that we log this information, so like when it goes further down the line, other generations, that we're able to at least like derive them. And also we still have that vacuum right now in terms of like oral history to be able to resolve and like fix this problem and make sure that we have those stored. Also, what was the question? I forgot. I forgot.
How do you, I guess, intertwine being British, being Somali, kind of finding that right balance between your two identities? Because it's not even two identities, because we're all British, we're all Somali, but then we're black and we're Muslim and we're female. So how do you kind of balance all those 5 identities within your poetry and kind of get it out there?
I think me, myself, personally, I struggle with the word British. So I also, because my nationality is Dutch, it doesn't apply to me. So Brexit wasn't really able to be involved in that. I campaigned, but didn't really help me. Still dealing with that one. But as a whole, I try to juggle what it means to be black, to be a woman, and to be Muslim. I think the main times when this usually pops up is when I'm on the train and it's central line, busy hours, no one sits next to me, and the whole line is empty, and I start playing who's the millionaire, and I have 4 choices. I'm it's because I'm black. I'm not sure. Muslim, the woman. Either way, I'm comfortable, and I don't have a crowded seat next to me, so that's something. But I don't know. I think it's about trying to figure out what that means to yourself. And I think it's a daily journey that you go through, and allowing yourself to just really define what that is, because those intersections aren't so common. So you are able to have a brand new experience and see what that would be, what that would mean.
Personally, for me, it's been at times it's been a struggle. I'm going to be completely honest, especially because I come from quite a conservative Muslim background, quite conservative Muslim family. Beautiful, wonderful people. But it's just that it's kind of I feel like I'm trying to be, at times I feel like I'm trying to push myself too out of the mold. And, with a lot of sincerity, there's a lot of, a certain type of narrative pushed in my circles. And that can be a struggle, because it's I really know I want to be a poet. I really know I want to get my novel written and published. But then I'm is it Islamically right? And all those thoughts kind of loop in your mind. And it's kind of taking it day by day and just trying to, take it day by day, really. And that's how I deal with it, and try balance, literally be do your Islamic duties as much as you can. I kind of have to really think about it for myself, but it definitely can be a struggle, and that's all I've got to say, really.
So I'm the same. So I'm struggling with Brexit. I'm also a Dutch citizen. So because I came to London when I was about 9. So majority of my adult life, I'm 22 now. So majority of my adult life, I've here. Can't remember Dutch much. Can't remember. Yeah. So that's been a big struggle for me. Just kind of dealing with, am I Dutch? Am I Somali? Am I British? Which category do I fit in? Which category accepts me, which is then another issue. And then there's, again, the other issue of, oh, okay, I'm also a Muslim. Oh, okay, I'm also black. So that's something I struggle with a lot. And I feel like my poetry helps express that and to kind of help me deal with that, because a lot of the times I feel like I'm this big blob of everything and don't really fit in anywhere, which is fine, because you don't have to fit in a box. You can be a rectangle if you want to be a rectangle, which is, I do try to be rectangular sometimes. But in terms of reading in Somali, that has been asked to me actually before, and I'm not Hoy Matalagang, which basically means you can't really speak Somali properly, because Hoy Matala doesn't make sense for the non-Somalis in the room. It just basically means mum not here. Oh, okay, that makes sense in English. Okay, never mind. Right?
She's not lying there.
Yeah, she's not lying there. Yep, okay, yeah, whatever. But my Somali is not that great. I don't think in Somali, but I don't think in English, and I don't think in Dutch. I think in a combination of those. So if I was to write poetry, it would be a combination of those. And I don't know if that would make sense, so I write in English. So that's me.
Oh yeah, I'm just going to comment on the language one. I actually worked as an interpreter, so I'm quite confident in my Somali. For a number of years I was doing that. So it's not because that I'm not confident in my Somali language. Actually, I've written 1 or 2 poems, or some of my poems actually do have Somali words in them. but I guess it's a thing of confidence. You know, I was like sort of I was educated here since the age of about 10. So I just feel like, oh, you know, I wrote in this language in like an educational context. I feel like it's just the level of confidence, whereas my Somali was picked up from talking to Hoyo like every day, and like I guess growing up in Somalia as well, and you know, my childhood. So I don't know, I think it's a confidence thing. It's a confidence thing. I'm not really able to share with anybody my Somali poems. Also, I don't feel like they kind of do justice to like the amazing Somali poetry, like the historic and, you know, the ones that you hear at weddings. And I just feel like I'm just nothing compared to that when I write in Somali. But I don't know, with English, I feel like, well, I was educated, I've got a degree, I can write this, I can do this, you know. So I guess that's what it is for me.
I think that the most interesting thing about the question was when you said the beginning part where you were talking about how in Somalia they had culture and they had this and they had that, and now we're here and our parents are telling us the stories of what it was like in Somalia post, like before the war and everything, and we have that image in our heads, and then we have the reality of Somalia now in our heads, and then we have the Western world. So it's kind of like three, really, because your parents raised you on their vision, and their vision was Somalia before the war. So I think that when it comes to like stuff like that, I'm between, like, okay, on one hand, like, I want to be like my mum. Obviously, everybody wants to kind of like be like their mum. And my mum tells me about the culture she grew up with and the music she was listening to and the artists and the poems, and you know what I mean? And that is so different from what I'm watching and what I'm... So she'll show me a movie that she watched, and I'll show her, like, she'll show me like a Hindi movie that she grew up watching, and I'll show her like some Spanish indie film and try to like give her some of my culture, I don't know. But with British, and you get to choose really, because like if someone's having a discussion about race, you can talk about, okay, what it's like to have blackness. And then if someone's having a discussion about religion, you can talk all day about Islam and what that is to you. But it depends what room you're in. It depends what conversation you're in. You don't always get to share all elements because not everyone's going to understand unless you're around similar people like now. So I think it's interesting because everyone's at their own, like, you define yourself at the end of the day. Like, yeah, I'm Somali, I'm all these things, but I'm Yasmin first. So you decide what that means. On that note, I think we should open it up to the audience. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions? We got someone right here at the front.
Thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Nasra. I just wanted to make a comment about the language question. I think a lot of the times when people ask about, you know, to other poets, like, oh, you know, why don't you, or even writers, like, why don't you, you know, perform in Somali, or why don't you write in Somali when, you know, Somali is like your mother tongue, but, you know, English is like the best language you speak. I think that question suggests something like, you know, because you don't exactly fit into the 100% Somali mold or the 100% British mold, whatever that means, that your value or like your input kind of like that there isn't, like, you can't necessarily define it. But I think we should see, for example, what you guys did today, like, as a continuation of Somali cultural production. And I think in our community, we tend to look back at the past a lot. And, you know, oh, we did this, you know, we had this poetry and these are the riwayads or these plays, and which was all great. And we should look at that for inspiration and for learning about methodologies of producing knowledge. But I also think that what is happening today in Somalia and within the diaspora all over, whether it's in Europe, in Africa, or in the Americas, it's still a continuation of our culture. And even if, yes, some of us do not speak Somali, they still have a voice, and their voice should be heard. And I think a lot of the time what we do is we kind of, there's a stigma to someone, for example, you know, we have the whole Hoy Matalo, which is, you know, a grammatically incorrect word but in Somali, but it's like those Hoy Matalos are going to keep producing, and they will keep, whatever they do, whatever their input is, it is still part of Somali culture. And it is, I don't think there should be a distinction between, you know, you are from Somalia, you're from that place, that's what you do, but then here is what I do. I think that kind of creates unnecessary hierarchies. And at the end of the day, we will just, us as Western Somalis, like we will still be Western. If that makes sense. I think we shouldn't have those hierarchies. But yes, that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nasra. Does anybody have any questions? I really can't see anybody right now. I just want to... Yeah? You over there? Oh, yeah, that woman over there.
We don't bite.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for your poetry. It was a real privilege to listen to it. I just thought it was really interesting what you were saying about poetry being quite a vulnerable thing, and kind of performing it and letting your family and friends know you're performing it it's quite nerve-wracking, I think. I was just wondering, how do you feel when you're writing your poetry as opposed to performing it? And maybe specifically those poems you performed today, how did you feel writing those?
For me, I feel like really poetry is like somewhere I go when I'm hurting. That's something that I find. So it's almost like, I'm really hurting about something, and I will, pick up my pen or take my phone, go to the notes and write it, and it almost takes my problem away. I don't know how deep it takes that problem away, or if it just sort of makes me believe that it's gone away or something. But I feel like it's kind of like, I feel like it's a safe space for me. Not that I'm saying like I'm in like a terrible place or anything like that. I'm not. But you still sort of, everybody has something different that works for them best. And I feel like this was what was made to work for me best. And I don't know. I when I'm writing, just in general, I feel like I really feel at home in a really strange way. Like it's almost quite surreal. Like it's different. Like I kind of leave everything behind, and it's just like me in my nice little bubble. So it's really nice to be able to find that thing for myself.
Hello. Sorry. For me, it's the same. I was diagnosed with anxiety, so it really does help with my anxiety in terms of writing, and it kind of just helps make sense of a lot of things. When I'm writing, I feel like I'm capturing a moment and I've closed it, and I feel like I've said my part on it, and I feel more at peace with certain things after I've written it. Like if I've gone through something, there's a lot of things that I realize I've left unresolved, and I'll write it down, I'll put it in a poem, and it may not be something I'll ever perform or anyone will ever see, but it's for me, and in that moment I know that, okay, cool, I can put that to bed now, I'm good. So that's why I feel like it's a bit vulnerable at times. Like the one I wrote, the one I performed first, The Woman in You, I won't even lie, I cried when I wrote that, because I was just thinking about the context of what made me write that. And we were sitting in a room. Sorry, this is like an anecdote. Me, my mum, and my mum's sisters, we were sitting in a room, and we were talking about the people who had told us basically, they were telling me stories about, how they made it. And one of my aunts has got a PhD and a master's and, degrees, but her teachers always told her she could never do it. And it's nuts, because you're like, why would a teacher, someone who's meant to, support you and champion you, say that to you? And it's nuts, because it also happened to me. And I was like, wait a minute, this happened to me too. And it was crazy, because I feel like Somali women in a lot of families are like this strong boulder, and they have to like internalize everyone's pain and everyone's hurt, and they don't ever have time to deal with it themselves. And I've seen it in so many Somali families where the mum is like this amazing figure, and I feel like we don't say that enough. We don't tell our mums enough, yo, like, you are an icon, and if I'm half the woman you are, wow, Sorry, that was it.
I agree with everything you said. In terms of like how you feel when you're writing, I think that it's more like I feel this way and that's why I'm writing. And I think that most poetry is like that. Like if you feel something, it's any type of expression, like painting, it makes you feel peaceful. Okay, you got the emotions out there. But mostly, like me personally right now, my best poems, I cannot share that. It's too real. You know, it's too personal because it's a personal thing. And I'm not at the stage as an artist where I can share that right now, but who knows? And like, yeah, I think that it's like, especially if you have like something going on in your life, like you said, and it's to do with the people around you, and you write about it, you can't share that right now. Maybe in the future, you know? Some things are personal past extent. Like if you're an author and you're writing a book about characters, you can put anecdotes of your real life in there and no one's going to know what it's really about. But if it's a poem, they know it's about you. You're standing there, you know? So I think that in that sense it's personal. When you're writing it, it's a very artistic experience, an expressive experience. But sharing it, or the question of should I share it, is completely different. Yeah.
I want to touch on something that Hema said, even though I'm not a poet. I think in life, especially when you're in the creative industry, if you're an artist, if you're a poet, if you're an author, you have to be able to deal with criticism a lot. Growing up in school, I feel like when you're an ethnic minority in a school, I experienced a lot of teachers telling me that I couldn't do certain stuff, and there was one teacher when I was in high school who was the only teacher who kind of believed in me. She was my English teacher. Again, that goes back to my poetry phase that I went through. And I remember she wrote in my yearbook on my last day in high school, and she was like, don't read my page until you get home. I don't want you to read it till you get home. So I was like, Miss, it's not that deep. Like, fine, I'll read it when I get home. And when I got home, and I still have my yearbook today because I kind of go back to it every time I kind of need motivation or inspiration. But she left me a very heartfelt message, and at the end of it she was like, and I know it off the top of my head because I'm that sad, she was like, you're an inspirational young girl and you have a creative mind, and I hope that you use it not only for the Muslim community but for society at large. And it still sticks with me, I guess, like 8-9 years later, that even though she knew I probably wasn't going to be a poet, she knew that I had some sort of creativity and that I was going to eventually use it to kind of channel some sort of passion, and I kind of found that, again, I'm quite sad it wasn't poetry, but you know, I'll get over that eventually. So how do you guys deal with criticism, constructive criticism or just haters, as others say?
I think that, like, again, because writing poetry is such a personal thing, like you're doing that by yourself, when you share it, you don't know how people are going to react. Like, this is my perception of the world because of whatever I've been through in life and how I was raised and whatever. Not everybody has the same perception, so you're sharing your perception with everybody, and you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know if they're going to get it or if they're not going to get it. Some people are going to be like, yeah, I completely understood what you were talking about, and other people are just going to be like, you know, listening, but like they don't really feel it, and that's fine because we're all different and we all have different perceptions. So I'm not expecting everybody to get it, you know.
I think it's the same for me as well. I kind of get inspired. Like I literally, this is probably like the third or fourth time that I was able to like share my work, and I just literally keep in mind that, you know, not everybody's going to get you in life, and that's just full stop. No, not everybody's going to get you in life. So if you go in with that kind of mentality, and you know, when like, you know, people tell you, oh, you know, I was able to relate to that, or you know, something like that, you just let that push you, and yeah, you'll be fine. If just don't expect everybody to get what you're going on about. I think that's it, really.
So I first began sharing stuff on Instagram, and I made amazing friends through that. I won't even say their names, but and people did give me feedback. I'm so lucky to not have had like really rude comments, which I was so scared about. So, I mean, I'm always open to constructive criticism and people telling me, oh, I feel like if you'd done this, it would have gone better, and et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like it's always about what poem. If I'm talking about something like something I've been through, I don't need your criticism on that. It's something that's happened. It was something, but it's complicated because I'm not now going to say, don't give me feedback on it. I've shared it. Do you know what I mean? And something that an English teacher always told me was, we can never know the author's intent. We get something from an author, we read it, we interpret it the way we want to interpret it. So that's it. There's now the author can't control the way they read it or the way they, you know, what's happened with it. Which is why when people say things to me, I'm always like, okay, I see that, yeah, cool. and I try not to get really sad about it or anything. But, you know, you do a little bit, like, because you've written it the way, you know, you choose certain words. I may synonym a few words, but that's not the point. But no, I kind of value it, but at the same time, I'm scared of it, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Any questions from anybody in the audience? We've got one here and then Bara at the back afterwards.
Hey, good evening. Thank you very much. That was amazing, all of you. My question is, how much do you read about all Somali plays? How do you go back and read them, watch them? Here I have with us tonight Saeed Salah, one of the older generation playwright, poet, and another Saeed here, Saeed Jama. So, so the older generation is here to watch you, and maybe they might be inspired too. How much do you go back and see all those old stuff? Or do you read them? Would you like them in English?
Personally, I absolutely love listening to like Gabay. I'll just sometimes go on YouTube and like write Gabay, and I'll just put it on while I'm doing the dishes and stuff. And I think it's so beautiful, and I think it's really amazing and so inspiring, and it's just so deep. And I always feel like I can't quite like, you know, get you know, be as good. So I think it's amazing and it's really inspiring. And I think when you kind of like, you can kind of like get inspired, but feel like, you know what, I've got a language, I've got something, I've got a medium that I can sort of maybe do something similar. So it inspires you in that way. You don't necessarily have to do it, obviously, in Somali, but I think it's beautiful. And I think it's so crucial that it has happened. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody that was involved. I feel like I'm on the other side behind the screen, and now I'm seeing like, you know, people that were doing these things. And I just want to say thank you. Yeah, it's really inspiring and it's amazing.
I think I went through a phase where I was trying to kind of get more into my culture. When I was growing up, I couldn't really speak Somali. So I started YouTubing Somali songs. Watching like Somali plays. There's one play that Hibo is in, and she sings the song Son Noqo Adon Nabad. That is one of my favorite plays. It's on YouTube, so if anybody wants to watch it, the full video is on YouTube. And also I kind of tried to start reading Somali poetry. I feel like everybody kind of grew up knowing about Hadrawi, and I have at home one of his poetry books, which has one of my favorite poems, which is one of my favorite poems by him. So I feel like I have tried. I'm sorry, guys, I just stole your question, but I tried to kind of, I guess, connect with my roots. And I can't say, as a photographer, I can't say that it kind of helped me try find an identity within photography, but it kind of did help me move away from the oral and the written storytelling and kind of move to the photography storytelling. Because I guess as we go on within generations, I feel like writing will change, the interpretation will change, but the picture will always stay the same once I take it. So that's kind of what I took from it. But guys, how about you guys?
I'm going to be the really embarrassing one that you're going to be like, Allah, I've never heard of both. And to be honest, I'm not trying to blame my mum, but... So the problem is, I think, especially because of the time my mum grew up, she was migrating, she got to Holland by the age of 14, gave birth to all of us, and she just had time for survival. She had time to raise us, and beyond that, she didn't have the capacity or luxury to teach us about our culture. So then, when I started meeting other Somali aunties, and they were like, "So, what tribe are you?" And I'm like, "Mum, I can't find this on Wikipedia. Where am I from?" And yeah, and I got basic information back, and I think recently I started to appreciate the fact that I need to understand my heritage to be able to understand myself, and for me to be able to get into art, I can't completely erase like Somali culture and Somali arts. For me to be able to find myself and what my identity should look like, I have to go back. So I recently started to watch like Somali plays. Didn't understand all of it, but when they were laughing, I was 100% there. I was laughing with them. Yeah, so that was good.
Yeah. Any of you guys know? No?
Oh, can I add something? sometimes there's a conflict between religion and culture. And if you come from a quite a conservative background, there isn't necessarily that kind of a harmonious relationship with your as being a Somali and the Somali culture versus your Islamic identity. You know, often you can be told, music is haram, plays are a waste of time. So, if you've kind of grown up with that narrative, it's really quite challenging. So I think it's really important to speak about that side of things as well, because it's not, people can be like, yeah, this is that. But, that kind of silent struggle is not really talked about. And I think it's time that we sort of opened up about that.
I agree. I'm no mufti, so I'm not going to open up about it. But Bar's got a question at the back.
Oh, that's mine. Hello. Someone who's actually lucky enough to have grown up in an area where I can actually go and see the plays and partake in a play as a child, I'm quite grateful. But also, as a mother who encourages their young children to actually write poetry, and I've got a child, my 9-year-old, I'm boasting now because I'm a mum, who's got his published, who's just been published, have his poetry published. What would you say? I see how I boasted there. I'm going to tell him I boasted. What would you say? It's a follow-on question for someone. Someone asked already. What is the most challenging sort of subject for you to write about? Because many of you said you use poetry as a form of actually dealing with emotions and being able to express yourself. What is the most challenging topic you ever wrote about? And I'm hoping for some of you guys, would you be open to doing workshops for young girls? And that's the teacher in me. I'm trying to plug.
Aisha.
I'd definitely say mental health, because I don't know, sometimes like for example, my WordPress link is on my Twitter and Instagram bio, and like from time to time, like if my friends click on it and they'll be like, because back when I was like 15, 16, like I'll just post whatever I wanted to, and then they'll read it and they'll be like, oh my days, I never knew you went through that, and I'll just be like, no, you're not supposed to read it, but like it's public, so it's just kind of like, what? So I'll definitely say mental health.
I would agree. And I also think, like, the fear of kind of like saying something you're not meant to, as a Somali or as a Muslim, like kind of being seen as like maybe too adhan or white-minded. I just think the fear, because you're struggling with all these identities and you just kind of have like, you're trying to make sense of it all, and you're scared of crossing an invisible line. And I think that's really quite a struggle. And I think a big part of it is when it comes to sharing, you've got that big fear to deal with, like, what's the people going to say? So,
I thought I was going to be the only one, but I'm so glad you guys said that. Mental health. I'm much like Asha, like she said earlier, I'm very empathetic. So when someone says they feel something, I kind of take it on, and that energy is like kind of stays with me. And like, say someone tells me something really sad, I get really, really sad, and I'm like really sad for them, and I want them to be happy and everything. So I write. So my mental health, definitely. I would love to do workshops, but I'm so scared. I've always thought, like, because as I said earlier, I've got like imposter, yeah. So like, kind of when you don't believe, like someone called me a poet the other day, or someone one time in the road said, "Oh my God, Susie creates." I was like, what? That's my by the way. So that wasn't even intentionally plugging myself, but yeah. So yeah, definitely mental health, and sometimes I won't even lie, family thing, just family. I find myself a lot of the time writing about situations I didn't know affected me that much, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm crying, and so yeah. But definitely mental health. I'm always writing about anxiety and depression and things, and because I feel like it's my duty to, because when I was young, I kind of thought I was crazy. I didn't know what was going on, and no one kind of said anything about it. And I feel like our parents don't really know themselves, because a lot of them are dealing with PTSD, and they don't know that because they never had time to stop and think, oh my God, my mental health, am I okay? Because they had to keep going. They had to survive. They had to bring up their kids. They had to take them to school. They never had a chance to breathe. So I answered an imaginary question too, sorry.
I think that with workshops, they're really important. I 100% agree with the teacher element in you, especially since like writing poetry, like, okay, you said what's the hardest topic that you can write on, but writing in general, you have to understand that that's you. Like you have to, the whole world that's in front of you, you have to identify which parts resonate with you for you to make something written on a page to begin with. So really, it's teaching kids and teaching people who want to write that it's okay to claim your identity, everything that makes you who you are, and be like, okay, that's all me, and now what, you know? And I think workshops are definitely important.
What's the question? Sorry, I forgot. Vulnerability in terms of things to share. I think it just goes back to the point of the way we view ourselves and the reality. So I could be thinking I'm a very strong woman who's able to be resilient and I can do whatever I want. And then I'm writing about how crap I'm feeling and I'm like, okay, so I'm not going to share this. So you just block it, right? And it's the way you constantly have to like shapeshift your identity. And I think it's also like what we view a black woman should be, right? Your idea that you have to be really strong, but also very caring for everyone. So the same way you normalize the idea that we have to carry anything on our back and the idea of asking for help doesn't exist. And it's trying to figure out what that would mean to you. What does it mean to actually be feminine? Because like black women aren't really included into that whole category, right? And then thinking about whether that's comfortable enough for you to explore and defining what you should be like. And the idea of being good or bad, right? What's a good citizen look like? What's a bad citizen look like? What is the idea of a good Muslim? So like if I share the real version of me because I'm not upholding all the values of like what a good Muslim is meant to be in society, I could possibly be out of that form. Then am I doing justice for anyone else? Because that could cause people to have specific views of you. Do I look like a good black woman? Maybe is my poem too angry? And then you don't want to add to these stereotypes. So I think it's about being true to yourself and allowing yourself to explore. And then realizing that there's so many boxes and stereotypes that you don't want to conform to. I can't give an answer to that. I think workshops are very important, mainly because you can see people that look like you and you realize those struggles are real. You're not going crazy. These are realities that people are experiencing. And it allows them to be able to be around like-minded people as well. I'd be interested if you want to do something. Or I can get you in contact with other people that would be able to do other types of workshops as well, so speak to you.
I hope that answered your question, but I can do workshops for you as well. I don't know if they're going to learn much, but I can do them. I'm going to take one last question here, and then we are going to wrap it up in a bit.
It's not a question, it's more of a comment, because you guys said that you struggled with writing about mental health, but I think there's a lot of things that you guys wrote about that's quite useful for people who are suffering from mental health. Your poem about your friend with mental health was really beautiful, like just, that everything is going to be okay, that you're beautiful, just live your life like you are. The poem that you wrote about the sitting on your bed, eating grapes, feeling the sun, just living in that moment, being present, all of those are quite helpful. I know you guys said you write poem to help yourself and it's therapeutic for yourself, but I think there's a lot of elements that are actually therapeutic to other people as well. So just to end on that note, really.
You got some more? Okay, by public demand. And I think there's a hand at the back somewhere. Keep your hand up, sister. We're going to come to you after. I'm joking. Put it down. No, it's cool. I'll give it to her after.
Oh, okay. Thanks for passing on the baton. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for everyone for being here. Thank you to Cade and to South Bank for putting this on. I feel like I'm watching young trailblazers, and I'm just really honoured that I got to witness this. The question links into various comments that you made on the panel so far in regards to like intersectional identity. Within the Somali community, I feel like women in general constantly put in a box where they're unable to express themselves, and I feel like the creative arts are very much needed, and I feel like women do that best, if I'm going to be honest. What do you think we need to do as a community to engage the wider community really so that we can make the changes that we need?
And we're going to take the other question as well, so can we get the next question as well? Did you guys get that question? Yeah?
Hello. Mine is not a question, it's just a comment. And I just want to say that Suhama I've been following you on Instagram, Sister Create. Hi. And I just want to say that your poetry has really inspired me. And I think, as you talked about anxiety, that it really takes a lot for a person to come up on a stage and perform in front of like so many people. So thank you so much for doing that. And I'm a big fan from all the way from Finland.
That fully made my day, or like that fully made my day. In regards to the question about, I guess, Somali arts and how women are killing the game, I think not only just in poetry as well, but I think across like the whole creative industry, I think this generation of Somali women are, in street terms, doing bits. I guess like you have Halima Aden that's killing the runway right now. We have people like Sherry who's winning like Swedish Grammys across like Sweden, obviously. We also have authors. You know, we have Hannah Ali, who is the festival director of Somali Week, but she's also a published author. We have Nadifa Mohammed, who's an amazing author. So if you guys haven't checked her out, make sure you guys check her out. We also have some great journalists that work at BuzzFeed, that work at Glamour. And I feel like you're right, Somali girls are killing it in terms of what we can do to keep that going and keep pushing it. I don't know. I don't have the answers, sis. Sorry. But I'm sure they do.
Personally, for me, I think if there were... Sorry, I keep kind of like messing this up. Yeah, just... I feel like there should be more spaces where people can just, for instance, just share poetry. And I think that just in itself would be really inspirational for like young people, and like help with a lot of problems like mental health issues, and just let people know that it's okay to be who you are. It doesn't matter if you've got all these identities that you have to figure out pretty much every day. Yeah, so personally, I would just love to have more confidence and just more space, and hopefully maybe take part in initiatives that sort of make safe spaces for people to share who they are within people that look like them, and just to feel normal, really. Because for me, like when I first started kind of sharing, I would go to these spaces that there's like full of white people, and like not that that's a bad thing, but like you kind of feel you don't really feel like you belong there, and it's kind of like it's quite a struggle. But it was important for me to like kind of like just push myself to start, because I didn't see any spaces where people like me were there doing things that were being creative, I guess. So I did go to the last event that I went to was organized by the what they called again. Where I met you, sorry, where was it? I kind of went blank. I met you guys in the Poetry and Shah, that's the one. And then it was really amazing. I was like, oh my God, there's like lots of Somali people, like they're reading poetry, and it was really beautiful. And I think there just needs to be more spaces such as those, and we need to push for it as much as we can.
Sorry. First of all, the last comment, come see me after, because you made me cry, and we need to hug it out. Secondly, I think supporting these kind of platforms. So like she said, Poetry and Shah, by the way, they've got an event next Saturday. It's basically a safe space to read poetry, open mic, and it's such lovely, that's where I first performed, if I'm not mistaken. And honestly, there's such lovely people, and I've met so many lovely people there, and honestly, I can't praise them enough. But it's like, supporting those kind of spaces. Like there's another group, Literary Natives. They are absolutely amazing. That's not just poetry, that's writers, and you get to meet people who are like, just like-minded people who want to write, who are in the middle of writing novels and poetry and lots of kind of different things, and they do like, really like champion you and give you people and like events and where you meet. So I think it's all about supporting those kind of platforms. They are out there, you just need to find them, which is hard. I think trying to find different places you can go where you can explore, where you can find different kind of meet people. There's also another one, sorry, I'm just literally just throwing platforms out there. There's another one, oh God, from the top of my head I can't remember the name. It's on Tuesdays, Boxed In at Shoreditch, and it's free. So there's that. Every Tuesday, I want to say 7. I could be mistaken. Yeah, 7 to 9. There are open mics. You can go up, you can read. And again, they're just a lovely bunch. So I feel like it's about championing these platforms we've got, going to them, giving your money. Don't just say, that's about £5. Oh my God. You spend that on Starbucks, mate. So, you know what I mean? Like, put it into that. You want to see this, put it out. There's people who are putting on things. You just need to go and support them. Hannah Ali's written a whole book. You know what I mean? Buy it. Champion her. That's me.
Open mic night. I might have to come and perform there
Come
still.
through.
Is there any more questions? One, just a comment.
Yeah. I think I heard of it.
Google.
Wallahi, I was on Google. Yeah.
Organised by them.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I think that these, like, again, not everyone knows about stuff. Like, you shared what you know, he shared what he knows. Communication, innit? Like, everyone should just let each other know, like, oh, this is going on. Let's support this, let's support that, you know? You're going to put your time somewhere. You may as well, like, bring people in, let people know what you're doing. Don't just silently go somewhere. Tell everyone, you know? Try and make it a thing so that it can continue.
That's true. We are about to wrap it up, but I have one more question for the panelists. Obviously, it's no secret, guys, that I'm a photographer. I feel like I said it bare times today. But in terms of where I'm going with my photography, I was about to say poetry. In terms of where I'm going with my photography, I'm still trying to figure it out every day. But one thing I do know is that communicating with people is the most important thing. And I've kind of had the opportunity to communicate with people on social media that live back home, so that live in major cities like Hargeisa, Mogadishu, Garowe, Bosaso, and they are all like creatives too, but specifically they are photographers. And personally, one of my goals is to go back home sometime in the summer, whichever city will host me, and have a photography workshop with local content creators, and just, you know, spend 2-3 days in Hargeisa or Mogadishu or Garowe or Bosaso, whoever's going to host me, and just kind of create. Just go out, take pictures, come back, edit, show like the different types of editing techniques on Lightroom, etc. Where's your poetry going to take you? Are we expecting any poetry books from you guys? Are we going to expect anything published in Anthropology? Like, what's happening?
Sorry,
Okay.
you go.
For me personally, I tend to like to write poetry more. So usually on my blogs and whatnot, I'm not someone who's like proper confident yet to like do spoken poetry. So I feel like spoken poetry and stuff.
You should.
Honestly, oh my God.
Yeah, I think you should.
For me, I've written like a load of stuff, and I guess I would like to like have it published. I'm just kind of like, I don't know, it's just kind of sitting in my computer. It's a lot of stuff, and like I'm not 100% sure if it's, you know, what I think it is, but you know, I'm just gonna go with it. I'm writing other stuff on the side, and I'm just kind of like taking my time with everything and just exploring myself, my ideas, my writing, my life, and see where it goes.
So I've, at the moment, doing like 3 different projects in my head, which I always do, and then I stop writing one project and carry on with another, and it just ends up lots of unfinished things. But I'm writing, I really want to do a short story, kind of novel, short story, and an anthology if possible. Yeah, so I mean, we'll see if it will actually happen. I did get published in an anthology, so there was that. But yeah, it is a dream since I was young to even have a published book with my name, Saham Elmi. Like, can you imagine? Like, but that's me. Thank you.
I am currently, I'm trying to speak this into existence. Thanks. I'm currently working on a pamphlet, so just like 40 poems, and I'm trying to release it for my birthday, which is the 5th of July, just in case you want to send me anything. So yeah, I'm trying to work on that, and hopefully, inshallah, that will happen.
Inshallah. Yasmin?
I think that what you said was amazing about wanting to go back home and do workshops with other creatives there, because there are creatives there. Like,
Oh no, I just want a holiday. That's it.
well, I took it that way, and it's going that way because, like, even I think being a poet, like writing poetry, I think it's not really about where the poetry is going to take you. It's kind of like where you're going to take the poetry, if that makes sense. Fake deep. Because, like, okay, I went on holiday. I went to Mogadishu, and like I was helping out in a school where they were teaching English, and they're inspiring you. Like, they're taking you places. You think that you're going to bring them something, but you're going to take a lot more than you thought you gave.
I agree. I just want to thank Cade Somali Arts and Cultures for putting on this wonderful event and putting on a fantastic festival. That it's only day 7, so there's still 3 more days to go. So if you guys still want to check out some events, I would definitely encourage you guys to do so. Fun fact, Somali Week was probably one of the first places that I started doing photography. It was 2014, if I'm not mistaken. So I just want to thank Somali Week for giving me a platform to kind of grow as an artist, because I think that's key. I want to thank Ayan and Hannah and the Somali Week Festival organisers. I want to thank this amazing panel that I've been sitting next to all day and the amazing poetry that they recite for us. And I want to thank South Bank Centre for accommodating to us today. And I want to thank you guys. Thank you guys very much for coming. You guys are more than welcome to stick around outside and I guess network. And the girl who said the comment about Sumayya, make sure you guys hug it out. And thank you very much, guys. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.